Happy Halloween.
Halloween.
Or Samhain.
Samhain the brave. Look, I'm going to level with you now. Halloween, as far as I'm concerned, is just a party. That's just what people do. 31st, dress up. Kids dress up as superheroes for some reason. Go around knocking on people's doors, trying to get some sweets, candy for our American listeners. Bigger kids and young adults dress up in whatever they want, as little as they like. Go out at parties, fun. It's an excuse to dress up, blow off some steam. Halloween is about decorations, silliness. Probably for a lot of people, regrets the day after. It's just fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, it is. And I don't disagree.
Good. That was a short podcast. Thanks, everybody. That's our show.
In all seriousness.
Halloween.
I'm going to take my hat off. Is that all right?
That's fine. You take your hat off. Halloween. So seriously, Halloween. It's become a big party. It's become a time when people like to dress up, blow off steam, have fun, crack their teeth on a toffee apple, that sort of thing. Regret their life choices. It's when police officers in America stage elaborate heists, as far as I'm aware.
Sure.
Determine who is the best detective /human/genius.
Is that the point of that? Is that why they do the Halloween heist? To prove that they are the best detective?
That was the point. The first one was the wager between Jake and Captain Holt around, and the winner would be best detective.
Even though it's got nothing to do with detecting.
Yeah.
How do they live with themselves knowing that the Halloween heist has got nothing
is a sham?
Yeah.
I think it helps that they're fictional characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Fair enough.
But yeah. But that's what it is now. It's not what it was though, right? It's not where it came from. We didn't, hundreds of years ago, we didn't say, let's see how little we can convince our women folk to wear.
Jesus.
So, actually, thinking about the patriarchy and the past and stuff we talked about, high magic, folk magic, and the way we treated people back then. Maybe it is just an excuse that the men dreamed of. Goody Proctor, put on this costume. Anyway.
So there's a lot to pull apart. But, okay, shall we start with the Celts?
Why not?
Yeah, so Halloween, also known as All Hallows Eve.
Yep.
Also known as Samhain.
Doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
No, but Samhain was, back in the day, a festival that the Celtic peoples celebrated. And at some point in the 8th century, I'm not great with my history, but some pope, Gregory the whatever, all the religious people are shouting at the phone or whatever they're listening on right now. So at some point in the 8th century, some pope decided that this religion that they were setting up was the religion, and how best to convince those annoying Celts to stop dancing around a fire. What better way than just to rebrand this festival that they're already doing into something that's more aligned with this new monotheistic religion that was sweeping the nation.
Religion does that.
It does, and it did it a lot. So,
Okay. All right.
So Halloween, All Hallows Eve, became All Saints' Day.
Right.
So All Saints' Day is the 1st of November.
Okay.
So All Hallows Eve was the 31st of October. It was already a festival called Samhain that was practiced by Celtic people.
Okay. And they dance around a fire.
And yeah, because it's a fire festival.
So a lot of that has still carried through to modern day.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So the Celts, they would build their fire. It's a fire festival because it falls on one of the cross quarter days. So it's not an equinox.
Okay, you're going to have to expand on that a little bit.
All right. So you know the solstice
Yeah.
and the equinoxes.
Yeah.
Sort of 21st. There are 4 of them fall on the 21st in that season.
Okay.
So the summer one for us in the north, that's the 21st of June-ish. There's some science involved in working out when it is astronomically, but the 21st of June, that's the summer solstice for northerners. The 21st of March, that's an equinox. The 21st of September, that's an equinox.
Okay.
21st of December, that's another equinox. So there are 4 of them, but then there are other festivals that slot in at the midpoints, and they are called cross-quarter days.
Okay.
So Halloween falls, oh God, my brain, in between the 21st of September and the 21st of December.
Yep.
So it's a cross-quarter day. That's a fire festival.
Okay.
So that's
thank you.
what it all is, basically. So the Celts, they would have this big fire, and the thing that they were celebrating at the fire festival that happened to be on the 31st of October is it's sort of like the end of the year. So it's the last harvest that you can get, certainly in the Northern Hemisphere. It's the last harvest, you've gathered everything in, there's no more work to do.
No more jobs.
Exactly, no more jobs. So it was a massive party.
Cool.
Huge piss up.
Like an end of term.
Yeah.
All right.
It was an opportunity for hijinks.
So it literally was
Trick,
people blowing off their
treat.
steam,
Yeah.
letting their hair down,
I'm not sure about dressing up
the
in
outfits, the decorations.
nurses and Dracula and whatever. Less about that, but certainly the carving of a vegetable, pumpkin, turnip. I can't imagine how they carved a turnip. That is a hard vegetable.
It's not easy.
No, but whatever they were carving, carve the thing, put a light inside, because that is, when we were talking about sympathetic magic, that is a correspondence with protecting the light, because it's about to get dark when you get to, so this is the end of the harvest. You're about to get into the darker months until you get to the 21st of December. Remember, the Celts were all northern hemisphere types.
Yeah. So it's all about, the darkness is coming.
Exactly. So they would put a light in, they would preserve the light, but also it's like Thanksgiving almost. I know that's a very different
thing.
That's a different festival, but they were giving thanks for the harvest.
Okay.
Basically. So they've gathered all the food. Look, it's amazing. Let's have a huge bonfire. Let's get drunk. Let's throw off some steam. Let's have a party. Let's push each other over, because that's hilarious. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't alive back then. I don't know what they thought was fun.
Okay. So we literally have just evolved the same thing over hundreds of years, to a point now where Margaret from HR was going to wear too little and regret what she did the next day.
Poor Margaret.
Poor Margaret. Society made you do it, Margaret. We sympathise. All right. I feel like there's still more to this though, right? It's not just that, and it's probably undergone a whole load of transformations in between that point when religion nicked it to now. And is there an element where magic comes into it as well?
Yeah, a little bit. So the Celts thought at the time that on the 31st of October, that was where the veil between worlds was at its thinnest. So could be breached by our ancestors.
So we're not talking multiverse here so much as more kind of the afterlife a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so less parallel dimensions and more communing with those that came before.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And you see this crops up in other cultures as well. So round about the same time of year, you've got a celebration called Day of the Dead, which is round about the same time. Whilst the Celts weren't aware of the Day of the Dead people, and I wouldn't have thought they were aware of the Celts, it's just, I'm getting into psychology now, but Carl Jung would talk about the collective unconscious and the fact that cultures that were continents apart would have these, I don't know, stirrings or this drive, and identical bits of art or identical bits of architecture, like pyramids, for example, would just be in the same, would exist on different parts of the planet. And Carl Jung would call that the collective unconscious, that we're tapping into each other. So it's really an interesting point where potentially there were different cultures on practically other end of the earth to each other that felt that at this time of year the veil between worlds was at its thinnest, and so it was an opportunity. You could see your ancestors, you could talk to the people that had died. Yeah,
that's really, I find it interesting because you're saying about the same time of year and the kind of the Day of the Dead, Aztecs or wherever it originated from, plus the Celts doing the stuff that they're doing. I immediately thought of what we talked about previously with around astral magic and around the timing and waiting for the right time to do something, and what is happening up in the sky and the stars and the planets, the alignment. But the Day of the Dead stuff and the Celts, that's different hemispheres. So actually, the planetary alignments wouldn't necessarily be the same.
Well, the sun is always moving through Scorpio at the same time.
Right.
It's just that the seasons on our planet are the opposite. But the sun, when it's going across the sky, will still be moving through the star sign of Scorpio.
Okay.
Now,
so
Scorpio is connected to death and rebirth. So
there is an element then of the astral magic that we talked about before, whereby this is the right time for it. So collective unconscious that Jung's talking about, you've got different peoples in different parts of the planet using the same kind of information that you'd get from astral magic to determine that the right time of the year to do this is 31st of October.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. All right, cool.
So that's
all interconnected.
It is, I think so anyway. I think it's all interconnected. But how we get to kids and fully grown adults knocking on doors and begging for sweets, that's, I don't know what that is. Where does that come from? That's a separate evolution, I think. I know that the concept of trick versus treat, as you might understand, certainly the Celtic people wanted to be left alone by the, I don't know what you call them, like the bad spirits. Fairies, for example. Fairies are real jerks. So they would worry legitimately about fairies breaking in and kidnapping their children, because that's what fairies do.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Damn, you think about all those kids that she's took to Never Never Land.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. What a jerk. So absolutely, the Celts, they would light the torch, they would light the bonfire, they would stick the candle in the vegetable, and it's all to try to
protect them, ward off evil spirits.
Yes, don't
fairies.
Steal my kids.
Yeah.
So, and to a certain extent, there's a little bit of that when we go around and, you're not going to give me some sweets, well, I'm going to egg your house. This feels like...
Candle in your pumpkin's not going to protect you from that.
No, but you could pick up the pumpkin with the candle in it.
Chuck it at the kids.
And,
Not something that we would advocate here at Magenta.
Yeah.
Please do not throw lit pumpkins at children.
Or each other.
Unless they're a real jerk. Well, why should people celebrate now?
Well, that's a great question. So, when all of that rebranding was happening with that Pope rebranding, I mean, he did rebrand an awful lot of really cool festivals. Mm-hmm. And this was one of them. He kind of made it more about the saints. So this is an All Saints Day.
It's more about the 1st of November.
Yeah. So all of that stuff that's happening the night before is because these people are really good. They were saints, and this is why we're going to celebrate them the day after. And yes, the veil is at its thinnest. So why wouldn't you be in tune with something that's quite heavenly and spiritual, blah, 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 because it's when the saints come and visit us. So when all of that was going on, you can understand why certain religious practices are sort of based on that. So if your spiritual leanings are more that way and less about demons and ghosts and supposed evil things, you can absolutely practice the religious aspect of it if that's your jam. But if it's not, and you'd kind of like to unpack some of the stuff around death, renewal, because from a magical perspective, death is just part of a cycle. It's not the end of a linear process. It's very cyclical. Mm-hmm. So the fact that something ends is the opportunity for something else to start. So that's from the magical perspective. Certainly you could reflect on the things that have happened to you. I don't just mean people that have died. It's more, what goals haven't you achieved yet? As I said earlier, this festival is sort of like a New Year, or sort of like a New Year's Eve thing for the people that sort of develop this festival. So anything that you might consider for the end of the calendar year, so you might draw up some New Year's resolutions, you can still do all of that. You can just do it at Halloween or 31st of October. You can create your new year, your new beginning mm-hmm. around that date. And so it doesn't have to be about dressing up as a ghost and knocking on a stranger's door demanding food. I mean, because, people look at you funny when you're our age.
I do anyway, even if I'm not dressed up as a ghost. I should stop knocking on people's doors asking for food. So going back to the Celts and the original, because when you were just talking now, you sort of said you could look back at some of the things that you haven't achieved, for example. But the Celts originally, it was a celebration. It was harvest is finished. We have achieved. So I presume that's still, you can look back positively.
Yeah.
It's not just like we do with New Year's resolutions about these are all the ways in which I suck. And now I'm going to make a list of things I'm going to do to improve myself.
Uh-huh.
it can be about, well, actually, over the last 12 months, I've really achieved the full. I should celebrate that. Is that fair as well?
Yeah, that is fair. And you can use tarot. We've talked about tarot before on this podcast. It's a tool. You can use it to self-reflect. Absolutely. When we were talking before about tarot, we talked about different cards and how many cards you might pull, the kinds of questions you might ask. Well, absolutely. One of those questions might be, what should I have learned over the last 12 months that I haven't, I still need to? So you do a New Year spread. You could for that.
That's the thing, isn't it? I've seen you've written about that.
I have written about that, and anybody listening can go and search for that on the website.
And how to do a New Year
and
spread.
how to do a 13 card New Year spread. I will put the link to that in the show notes.
Cool. Because one of the things we didn't talk about when we did the tarot episode was around, is there a particularly good time to do a reading? So would Halloween, as the kind of like the end of the year, would that be a good time to do a reading, particularly not just a New Year reading, but any kind of reading?
Yeah, that would be a great time. Yeah, because certain cultures believe that the veil between the worlds is thin, so that might be a physical veil between this world and wherever you go when you die. It might even be an inner veil that you have. You might be more open, more perceptive, more sensitive, but also more open to hearing some of that from the shadow side that you might not at, I don't know, the full glory of summer, where you might not want to go
I don't want to hear it right now.
Exactly.
I'm living my best life.
Exactly.
On the beach.
I've got my cocktail.
Yeah.
Don't be spoiling my jam about my shadow self.
Exactly. Future Magenta can deal with all of that stuff. Right now, I'm just in them. All right. No, that's really really good. Actually, I think that's really helpful with the idea that your receptiveness is possibly increased at a time such as Halloween. Actually, why Margaret from HR has potentially gone out and lived her best life too much and done something she regretted is possibly she's more open to suggestion, she's more receptive to these ideas, and unfortunately she didn't have a vegetable with a candle in it to protect her from these bad spirits, and yeah, all right, I'm kind of ruining that analogy even more than it was to start with, but all right, no, that's cool. So that's a good reason to do a New Year spread at Halloween, is because actually not only might you be more perceptive, but you are probably more likely to hear what's being said by the cards, the message that's being relayed back to you, which potentially, I guess, you'd be more inclined to take action against, rather than our New Year's resolutions from January time, where we most people don't do them.
Well, there's always that potential, even when if you shift your New Year to October the 31st, if you traditionally celebrate the New Year in the end of December and you just shift it by a few months, I don't know, how open are you to still taking action on the suggestions that the card has for you? I think some of that has to do with personal ownership. If you are the sort of person who doesn't want to take action, you're not gonna. It doesn't really matter when you've said the New Year is. It's just interesting because for me, that is when I do my New Year spread, is at the 31st of October. I don't do one at the 31st of December. That's just the end of the calendar. It's not the end of the year particularly. And I don't know about you, but when it's the end of December and then the next day is January the 1st, it doesn't feel like anything is different. But there's just something about the autumn or fall that really suggests to me that this is the season of change. So if you are going to make change in your own life, to me it makes perfect sense that whenever the autumn is for you, that's when you would do a new year, new beginning reading.
Okay. So, like when we talked about tarot before, and you kind of challenged the idea that tarot is not good for counselling by producing the Rorschach test as an example. To challenge your autumn is a good time for it. Why not spring? Because spring is more of a new beginnings, isn't it?
It is. And if that's what you're after, then yeah, by all means, do a spread in the spring. If that's what you're after a new beginning.
Okay.
But you might not know what you want. And certainly having reflection back while the sun is going through Scorpio, it's all about the cycle of death and renewal. The leaves are doing their thing, the light is doing its thing. You know, it just makes sense to do it in the autumn. But if you did want, right, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to make this change, then absolutely wait for the sun to be in Aries, which is the start of things, you know, positive, very action oriented. So yeah, if you know what you want to do and you just need that little shove, then that's when you might prefer to make those new beginnings a thing.
And I guess
would be my advice.
Like we talked about previously with the different types of magic, the different types of witches, it's an incredibly personal thing. There's no right way or wrong way.
No.
It's what works for you, how you want to do it. And if you find that you're getting more out of it by doing your new year in the spring, go for it. You might find autumn works best for you.
Yeah.
You might want to stick to 1st of January in your resolutions. I know now in October that I have not done most, if not all, of the things I wrote down as things I wanted to do this year. Less resolutions, more kind of, you know, you should do this. But yeah, so maybe I'll do mine over the next couple of days this time.
Oh, that would be good. I could help you with that, I guess. So we didn't really talk much about pop culture in this. I thought I was going to be answering questions all about babysitting and being stabbed.
I did think about it, but I haven't actually watched those movies. So no, it's fine. Jamie Lee Curtis is safe. No, I kind of feel like pop culture, you know, as far as pop culture's depiction of Halloween, it's not really that different to our modern day experience of Halloween with the trick-or-treating, the kids partying, with you know, people getting dressed up, getting drunk, blowing off steam and things like that, Margaret making her decisions. I think, you know, it was always clear to me that pop culture, as far as Halloween was concerned, was a more accurate reflection of life now, but its bearing on what came before was going to be as accurate as what we do now. I was being quite flippant to start with around it's just an excuse to blow off some steam, but that's literally where it came from. Yeah. So I didn't really have anywhere to go from there. So, you know, also I feel like my Margaret stories were more than enough to show that
Margaret.
It's not entirely serious. Oh, cool. All right. Nice. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And that's it. That's our show. I'll get you to say it.
I feel like the Simpsons meme with all the kids looking back at Bart saying, say it, say the line. Yay!
So that's it. That's our show. If you liked it, give us a rating and review, share with others, tell your friends. You'll find all our contact stuff over at magentaschoolofmagic.com, including our social media and links to the Magic School itself.